Princess Lirelei stood on the crystal balcony of her father's palace, watching the stars through the clear dome that protected their world. The Zephyrian capital sparkled below her like a field of diamonds, but tonight the beautiful sight could not calm her troubled heart. "My daughter," came her father's voice behind her. Emperor Vorthok approached with slow, heavy steps. His usually bright blue skin had turned pale gray with worry. "We must talk." Lirelei turned to face him. Through their telepathic bond, she could feel his deep sadness and fear. Something terrible was coming. "The Void Swarm has destroyed 3 more worlds," her father said. "Kelthara fell yesterday. 12 billion souls. Gone." Lirelei's breath caught in her throat. Kelthara was only 4 star systems away. The Void Swarm was a nightmare that had been hunting across the galaxy for 2 years now. These strange creatures ate psychic energy, making them especially deadly to telepathic races like the Zephyrians. Wherever they went, they left only empty worlds behind. "How long until they reach us?" she asked. 6 months, maybe less. Her father sat down heavily on a crystal chair. "Our military cannot stop them. No one can. The Altarians tried to fight them with 1,000,000 ships. The Void Swarm consumed their entire fleet in 3 days." Lirelei felt ice in her veins. "Then what can we do? The humans have offered to help us." The words hit Lirelei like a physical blow. Humans, the most feared species in the galaxy. She had heard the stories since childhood. The Reapers of Space, the Cold Ones, the species without souls. They were said to be killing machines that felt no emotions and showed no mercy. "Father." "No," she whispered. "They are the only ones who have ever beaten the Void Swarm." Emperor Vorthok continued. 3 years ago, when the swarm attacked human space, they not only survived but drove them away. They are our only hope. But the price. Lirelei knew there would be a price. Humans never did anything for free. A marriage alliance. You will wed their Admiral Marcus Chen. Lirelei felt the world spin around her. Marriage to a human. The thought made her sick. She had seen the recordings of human warriors in battle, their faces blank and emotionless as they killed. She had heard how they burned entire worlds to ash just to deny them to their enemies. How they cared nothing for art, beauty, or life itself. "I cannot," she said. "You must." Her father's mental voice was filled with pain. "I would not ask this of you if there was any other way. But our people will all die if we refuse." Lirelei closed her eyes. Through the palace's psychic network, she could sense the fear of her people. Mothers holding their children closer. Soldiers preparing for a battle they knew they could not win. Artists creating final works before the end came. "Tell me about him," she said finally. Her father activated a holographic display. A human male appeared before them. Tall, with dark hair and skin that was lighter brown than most Zephyrians. His face looked stern and cold to her alien eyes. "Admiral Marcus Chen, commander of the 3rd Human Fleet. Age 35 Earth years. He has fought the Void Swarm before and won. His military record shows." Her father paused. "Many successful campaigns. Very successful." Lirelei knew what that meant. This human had killed many beings across many worlds. The recordings she had seen of human tactics were brutal. They fought with a coldness that scared other species. They used weapons that could crack planets. They never showed mercy to their enemies. "When will he arrive?" she asked. "Tomorrow. One day." She had 1 day before she would meet the monster she was supposed to marry. That night, Lirelei could not sleep. She spent hours reading everything she could find about humans. The reports all said the same things. Humans were dangerous because they felt no fear and no guilt. They made war like machines, calculating and precise. They cared only about winning and never about the cost. One report from a Kellyan diplomat made her stomach turn. Humans do not form emotional bonds like other species. Their marriages are contracts for breeding purposes only. The human male will expect complete obedience from his mate and will show no affection or kindness. Another report was even worse. Human commanders view other species as tools to be used and thrown away. They have no understanding of love, art, or beauty. To them, all other life is expendable. As dawn broke over the crystal spires of her city, Lirelei made her decision. She would do her duty to save her people, but she would never pretend to love the cold monster they were forcing her to marry. She would be a princess first, a wife never. The human ships arrived exactly at noon, their dark metal hulls blocking out the sun. Lirelei watched from her balcony as dozens of vessels took positions around their world. Each ship was larger than their biggest city, armed with weapons that could turn their beautiful planet into burning rock. "The Admiral wishes to meet with us in 1 hour," her father told her through their mental link. Lirelei dressed in her finest royal robes, the crystal crown of her house heavy on her head. She painted her face in the traditional way for meeting foreign rulers, with silver lines that marked her as royalty. If she was going to meet a monster, she would do it as a princess. As she walked toward the throne room, Lirelei whispered a prayer to the crystal goddess. "Give me strength to face this creature, without showing fear. Help me save my people, even if it costs me my soul." The great doors opened before her. Inside, her father waited on his throne, and beside him stood the human who would soon own her life. Admiral Marcus Chen was taller than she had expected, and his eyes were not the cold black she had imagined, but a warm brown. When he saw her enter, he bowed deeply in the traditional Zephyrian way. "Your Highness," he said, in perfectly accented Zephyrian. "I am honored to meet you." "Nos. Nos." Lirelei stared at him in surprise. No one had told her he could speak their language, and the way he bowed, he had studied their customs. Why would a monster care about being polite? But she pushed the thoughts away. She knew what humans really were, no matter how well this one could pretend otherwise. Princess Lirelei studied Admiral Chen as he stood beside her father's throne. The human was not what she had expected. His uniform was clean and neat, not covered in the blood of his enemies. His hands looked normal, not like the claws she had imagined. Most strange of all, when he looked at her, his eyes seemed kind. But she knew better than to trust appearances. Humans were masters of deception. "Admiral Chen," Emperor Vorthak said, "may I present my daughter, Princess Lirelei?" The human stepped forward and bowed again. "Princess, I know this situation is difficult. I want you to know that I deeply respect your sacrifice for your people. It's not get a clear. In Sestendel, I want you to know. Sacrifice. At least he was honest about what this was. "Let us discuss the terms," Lirelei said coldly. For the next hour, they talked about military details. Admiral Chen explained how human forces would defend their world. His knowledge was impressive. He had studied Zephyrian cities, their people, even their weak points. He knew exactly where to place his ships and soldiers. Lirelei tried to read his thoughts, but her telepathic abilities found nothing. Humans were blank to psychic senses, like trying to touch empty space. It made her feel blind and helpless around him. "The marriage ceremony can be small," Admiral Chen said. "I understand your people prefer quiet celebrations." "How do you know that?" Lirelei asked. "I studied your culture before coming here. I want to respect your ways." Again, this surprised her. Why would he care about their ways if he planned to conquer them? During their formal dinner that evening, Lirelei watched the human carefully. He ate slowly and politely. He asked questions about their food and seemed genuinely interested in the answers. When a servant accidentally spilled wine on his uniform, he smiled and told her not to worry. You are not what I expected, Lirelei said finally. What did you expect? A monster. Admiral Chen set down his cup and looked at her seriously. Princess, I know what stories are told about my people. Most of them are not true. We fight hard when we must, yes. But we do not enjoy killing. We prefer peace. Yet you are very good at war. Being good at something and enjoying it are different things. Before Lirelei could respond, alarms began screaming throughout the palace. The crystal walls flashed red. The warning sign for attack. The void swarm. Her father said, his mental voice filled with terror. They are here early. Admiral Chen was moving before the words finished. He spoke rapidly into a communication device, giving orders in the human language. Then, he turned to the Emperor. Your Majesty, we need to evacuate the palace immediately. My ships detected 50 swarm vessels approaching. But the people in the lower cities. Lirelei began. My forces are already moving to protect them. The Admiral said. But you and your father must reach safety first. I will not leave my people, Lirelei declared. Princess, if you die, who will lead them tomorrow? The logic was cold but correct. Lirelei hated that he was right. They ran through the palace corridors as explosions shook the building. Admiral Chen stayed between the royal family and the direction of attack. His hand on his weapon. When falling crystal blocks threatened to crush Emperor Vorthak, the human threw himself forward to shield the older alien with his own body. Outside, the sky was on fire. Void swarm ships looked like living shadows against the stars, their tendrils reaching down to drain the psychic energy from any Zephyrian they touched. But human ships were fighting them, filling the darkness with bright weapons fire. My transport is here, Admiral Chen said, pointing to a human shuttle. As they climbed aboard, Lirelei saw something that shocked her. Through the shuttle's windows, she watched human soldiers helping Zephyrian civilians escape from collapsed buildings. They were carrying children to safety, sharing their medical supplies with wounded aliens, even using their own bodies as shields. Your soldiers are protecting our people, she said. Of course they are. That is what soldiers do. But they are not your people. Admiral Chen looked at her with confusion. Princess, once we give our word to protect someone, they become our people. That is how it works. During the flight to the military command center, Lirelei watched Admiral Chen coordinate the battle. He spoke to his ship captains with respect, not like a master giving orders to slaves. When one captain reported that his ship was badly damaged, the admiral's face showed real concern. Captain Torres, get your people out of there. That is an order. Sir, if we retreat, the swarm will break through to the civilian sectors. I said, get out. We will find another way. After the communication ended, Admiral Chen was quiet for several minutes. Lirelei saw something in his face that she had not expected to see in a human. Pain. You care about them, she said. Your soldiers. They trust me with their lives. That is not something I take lightly. They really Mendes. They trust me with their life-seeing. But humans do not form emotional bonds. Admiral Chen turned to look at her. Princess, whoever told you that has never met a human. We form bonds so strong that we die for each other. Sometimes I think we feel too much, not too little. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the void swarm had been driven away, but at a cost. 12 human ships were destroyed. Hundreds of human soldiers had died protecting a world that was not their own. That night, Lirelei found Admiral Chen standing alone on the observation deck of the command center. He was looking at the floating wreckage of his ships, and his face was filled with sadness. I am sorry for your losses, she said. Each one of them had a family back home, people who loved them. His voice was quiet. I have to write letters to their wives, their children. I have to tell them why their father or mother or son or daughter died so far from home. You do not have to write personally. Yes, I do. If I ask people to die for my decisions, the least I can do is face the consequences myself. Lirelei stared at him. This was not the behavior of a monster. This was not the cold, calculating machine she had expected. This human felt the weight of every death, carried the pain of every loss. For the first time since the engagement was announced, Princess Lirelei began to wonder if everything she had been told about humans was wrong. "Admiral," she said slowly, "will you tell me the truth about your people?" He turned to look at her. Everything. The next morning, Admiral Chen found Princess Lirelei in the palace gardens. She was sitting beside a crystal fountain, staring at the water with sad eyes. Her royal robes were replaced by simple clothes, and her hair hung loose around her shoulders. "May I sit with you?" he asked. Lirelei nodded without looking up. "I have been thinking about what you said last night. About humans feeling too much. Rhine. Rhine. And Lirelei nodded. Lirelei nodded. Admiral Chen sat on the crystal bench beside her. "What would you like to know? Tell me about human families." The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Then he began to speak. "When a human finds someone they love, they make a promise to stay together for their whole life. Not because they must, but because they choose to. They build a home together, raise children together, share every joy and sorrow. Even in arranged marriages like ours? No." His voice was firm. "What we have is a political agreement. Real marriage is different. It is about love, not duty." Lirelei finally looked at him. "Then why did you agree to this?" "Because my people needed this alliance. And I thought you understood it was just for politics. I never intended to force you into anything real. But you could. Once we are married, you would have the right." Admiral Chen turned to face her fully. "Princess, let me be very clear. You will always have the right to say no. To anything. Forever. I do not want a wife who stays with me, from fear or duty. I would rather be alone." These words confused Lirelei more than anything else she had heard. In every story about humans, they took what they wanted by force. "Tell me about human children," she said. A smile crossed the Admiral's face. "Human children are..." He paused, searching for words. "They are everything to us. We would die 1,000 times before letting harm come to them. Not just our own children, but all children. I saw your soldiers yesterday, carrying our younglings to safety. Of course they did. A child is a child." Over the following days, Admiral Chen shared more stories about his people. He told her about human art, paintings, and music, and poems about love, and loss, and hope. He showed her pictures of Earth, with green forests, and blue oceans, and cities that grew like living things instead of being built. "Humans create beauty?" Lirelei asked, looking at images of Earth's great gardens. "We try to. We are not always good at it." The report said, "You only care about war and conquest." Who wrote these reports? Diplomats from many worlds, the Kellians, the Vortanians, the Helix Confederation. Admiral Chen's face grew dark. "Ah, yes, we have fought all of them." "But did these reports mention why we fought them?" "They said humans attack without reason." "Princess, would you like to know the real reasons?" Lirelei nodded. "We fought the Kellians because they were using slave labor from captured worlds. We fought the Vortanians because they were experimenting on sentient beings. We fought the Helix Confederation because they were feeding lesser species to their pet monsters for entertainment." Each word hit Lirelei like a shock. But, they said. They said we were the monsters." "Yes, I am sure they did. It is easier to call us evil than to admit what they were doing was wrong." That evening, Lirelei walked through the reconstructed sections of her city. Everywhere she looked, she saw human soldiers working alongside Zephyrian civilians. They were rebuilding homes, sharing food, even playing games with Zephyrian children who had lost their families in the attack. One human medic was treating a wounded Zephyrian elder. The old man was afraid, but the medic spoke softly and gently, using simple Zephyrian words to calm him. "Why are you helping us?" Lirelei asked the medic. The human woman looked up in surprise at being addressed by the princess. "Because people need help, Your Highness. That is what we do. But we are not your people." The medic smiled. "You are now." Later that night, Lirelei found Admiral Chen in the command center, studying battle plans. But these were not plans for attack. They were detailed strategies for protecting Zephyrian civilians if the Void Swarm returned. "You are planning to sacrifice human ships to save our people," she observed. "I am planning to save everyone I can, even if it costs human lives, Princess. That is what we do." Lirelei sat down across from him. "I need to ask you something. And I want the truth. Always. Have you ever been married before?" Admiral Chen stopped working and looked at her. His face showed pain. "Yes. Her name was Sarah. She was a doctor on a colony world called Haven. What happened to her? The Void Swarm attacked Haven 3 years ago. Sarah was evacuating patients from a hospital when..." He stopped talking for a moment. End quote. "She saved 43 children before the building collapsed. I am sorry. She died doing what she loved, helping others. I could not save her, but I can make sure the Void Swarm never destroys another family like mine." Lirelei felt something break inside her chest. This human had lost someone he loved to the same monsters threatening her people. He was not here for conquest or glory. He was here for revenge and justice. "Is that why you fight them so hard?" "Partly. But also because no one else should have to feel what I felt that day." "And our marriage? Is it just about the alliance?" Our. Admiral Chen was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "When I first came here, yes. But now, Princess, I have spent these days watching you care for your people, seeing your intelligence and your kindness. You are not what I expected either." "What did you expect?" "A spoiled royal who cared only about herself. Instead, I found someone who would sacrifice her own happiness to save others. Someone brave enough to marry a monster to protect her people. You are not a monster." "How can you be sure?" Lirelei looked into his warm brown eyes. "Because monsters do not write personal letters to the families of their dead soldiers. Monsters do not learn the customs of alien cultures to show respect. Monsters do not cry when children are hurt. You saw me cry? Yesterday, when that Zephyrian child was injured in the attack. You thought no one was watching, but I saw your tears." Admiral Chen smiled sadly. "We humans are not very good at hiding our emotions. Maybe that is not a weakness. Maybe not." For the first time since their engagement was announced, Princess Lirelei began to think that marrying this human might not be the nightmare she had feared. In fact, it might be something wonderful. But she was not ready to admit that yet, even to herself. 3 weeks later, the Void Swarm returned with a force 10 times larger than before. Princess Lirelei stood in the command center, watching the sensor displays with growing fear. The enemy had brought over 500 ships, enough to consume her entire world. "They want to finish this," Admiral Chen said grimly. "This is their final push. Can we stop them?" Emperor Vorthak asked. Admiral Chen studied the displays for a long moment. "We can try. But Princess, I need to ask something difficult of you." Lirelei turned to face him. Over the past weeks, she had learned to trust his judgment completely. "Your people's psychic abilities could help us track the swarm's movements. but it would require Zephyrian civilians to work directly with human soldiers. They would be in danger. Our people are already in danger, Lirelei replied. If working with your soldiers gives us a better chance, we will do it. Within hours, mixed teams of humans and Zephyrians were working throughout the defense network. Lirelei watched in amazement as her people and Admiral Chen's soldiers learned to communicate despite their differences. The humans showed patience when Zephyrians needed time to process psychic information. The Zephyrians shared their mental pictures to help humans understand what they sensed. Your admiral is a good teacher, one Zephyrian technician told her. He made sure his people learned our basic customs before asking us to work together. He respects us, Lirelei realized. More than that, Princess. He protects us. When one of our younglings got scared and hid during the evacuation drill, the admiral himself went to find her. He sat with her for an hour, teaching her human songs to keep her calm. Lirelei had not known about this. There were many things about Admiral Chen that she was still discovering. The battle began at dawn. Lirelei stood beside Admiral Chen as he commanded the defense from the palace's shield generators. Through the crystal windows, she could see human ships moving in perfect formation to meet the void swarm. Your pilots are very skilled, she observed. They have to be. Each ship carries 800 crew members, 800 people who want to go home to their families. As the battle raged, Lirelei saw things that changed her understanding of humans forever. When a human destroyer was badly damaged, instead of retreating, it moved to protect a hospital ship full of wounded Zephyrians. When void swarm creatures broke through the planetary shields, human soldiers threw themselves into combat without hesitation, not to conquer territory, but to buy time for civilian evacuations. Most shocking of all, she watched Admiral Chen make decision after decision that put human lives at risk to save Zephyrian civilians. Sector 7 is overrun, a human captain reported. We can withdraw our forces, but there are still civilians in the lower levels. Negative, Admiral Chen replied. Hold that position. Get those people out. Sir. We will lose 3 companies of Marines. Then we lose 3 companies. Those civilians are under our protection. After the communication ended, Lirelei saw Admiral Chen close his eyes in pain. Every order to fight was also an order for some of his people to die. You could retreat and save your soldiers, she said quietly. No, I could not. But they are your people, and we are not. Admiral Chen looked at her with surprise. Princess, the moment we agreed to protect your world, your people became our people. That is how humans work. We do not abandon those we have promised to protect. As the day wore on, the situation grew worse. The void swarm was too large, too powerful. They were going to break through eventually, and everyone knew it. Sir, Admiral Chen's second-in-command approached. We have one option left. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. The quantum bombs. Lirelei felt ice in her stomach. She knew about human quantum weapons. Devices so powerful, they could crack a planet's core. If we detonate them in the upper atmosphere, the energy wave will destroy every void swarm ship in the system, the officer continued. But the radiation will also kill anyone within 50 kilometers of the blast site. Including us, Admiral Chen said. Including us, sir. Lirelei stared at them in shock. You are talking about killing yourselves. We are talking about saving your people, Admiral Chen corrected. The bombs can only be detonated manually. Someone has to stay behind. No. The word came out of Lirelei's mouth before she could stop it. There must be another way. There must be another way. Princess, your people will live. That is what matters. Not without you. The words surprised everyone in the room, including Lirelei herself. But as soon as she said them, she knew they were true. Somewhere during these weeks of working together, of seeing his kindness and courage, she had fallen in love with this human. There is another way, she said desperately. My psychic abilities. If I could link with you mentally, maybe we could coordinate the bombs remotely. That is impossible. Humans cannot form psychic links. Not normally. But if I tried hard enough, perhaps. It could kill you, Admiral Chen said firmly. Psychic shock from trying to connect with a human mind. Then it could kill me. Better that than watching you die. Admiral Chen stared at her. Princess, why would you take such a risk? Lirelei looked into his warm brown eyes and made a decision that would change everything. Because I love you. The words hung in the air like music. Admiral Chen's face showed wonder and disbelief. You love me? But I am human. I am everything your people fear. No, Lirelei said firmly. You are everything my people should hope to become. You are brave and kind and honorable. You care so much about others that you would die for strangers. You are not a monster. You are the best person I have ever known. Admiral Chen stepped closer to her. Princess, Lirelei, I love you too, but I cannot let you risk your life for mine, and I cannot let you sacrifice yourself for my people. So we do this together. Or not at all. Outside, explosions shook the palace as the void swarm broke through another layer of defenses. They were running out of time. Together? Admiral Chen asked. Together, Lirelei confirmed. Hand in hand, they approached the quantum bomb controls. Lirelei opened her mind and reached out toward Admiral Chen's consciousness, fighting through the strange blankness that surrounded human thoughts. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, suddenly, she was in. The sensation was overwhelming. Human emotions were not cold and calculating as she had been taught. They were burning hot, passionate, beyond anything she had ever felt. Admiral Chen's mind was filled with love for his soldiers, grief for the dead, fierce determination to protect the innocent, and underneath it all, a growing warmth that was his love for her. I can feel you, she whispered in amazement. And I can feel you, he replied. Together, their minds linked. They began the delicate work of reprogramming the quantum bombs for remote detonation. It was like conducting a symphony of destruction, requiring perfect timing and absolute trust. When the bombs exploded in the upper atmosphere, the light was visible from orbit. The energy wave swept through the void swarm fleet like fire through dry grass, destroying every enemy ship in seconds. But more importantly, Princess Lirelei and Admiral Marcus Chen were still alive. Their hands still joined, their minds still touching across the impossible gap between species. The war was over, and something new was beginning. The celebration lasted 3 days. Across the Zephyrian capital, humans and Zephyrians danced together in the crystal streets. Children from both species played games that mixed human technology with Zephyrian psychic abilities. The barriers between the two peoples seemed to melt away like morning frost. Princess Lirelei stood on her balcony, watching the joy below. The psychic link she had formed with Admiral Chen had faded, but the memory of his emotions remained clear in her mind. She had felt his genuine love for her people, his deep respect for their culture, and his growing affection for her personally. The wedding is tomorrow, came a voice behind her. Admiral Chen approached with careful steps, as if he was unsure of his welcome. The political wedding, Lirelei corrected. The one our governments arranged. Yes, but I wanted to speak with you about that. Admiral Chen stopped beside her, his hands clasped behind his back in the formal military pose she had learned to recognize. Princess, the Void Swarm is defeated. The immediate threat to your world is over. Our governments have their alliance now. The political marriage has served its purpose. Lirelei felt her heart sink. You wish to end our engagement. I wish to give you a choice. Admiral Chen turned to face her fully. What we have now was arranged by others, for their reasons. I do not want you to feel trapped by duty or politics. And what do you want? Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment, looking out over the celebrating city. I want to court you properly. I want to ask your permission to spend time with you, to learn about your interests and dreams. I want to bring you flowers from Earth and show you the sunrise over the human colonies. I want to earn your love honestly, not inherit it through a political contract. And if I said yes, then I would ask your father for permission to marry you. Not Princess Lirelei of the Zephyrian Empire, but Lirelei, the person who loves art and speaks kindly to frightened children and is brave enough to risk her life for others. Lirelei felt warmth spreading through her chest. You have been watching me. Every day. And every day, I have found new reasons to admire you. I have been watching you too, she admitted. Yesterday, I saw you teaching human combat techniques to our palace guards. Not so you could control them, but so they could better protect their families. Your people deserve to be able to defend themselves. Most conquerors prefer their subjects to be helpless. Admiral Chen smiled. I am not a conqueror, Lirelei. The way he said her name, not Princess or Your Highness, but simply Lirelei, made her feel like a person rather than a title. Marcus, she said, using his first name for the first time. What would a human courtship involve? Quote, talking, learning about each other, sharing meals and walks and conversations, taking time to build trust and understanding. He paused. It would mean I could not assume anything. I would have to ask permission for everything, even to hold your hand. Even though we are technically already engaged, especially because we are engaged, I want you to choose me freely, not because you have to. That evening, they had dinner together in the palace gardens. Not the formal state dinner that had been planned, but a simple meal at a small table under the crystal trees. Marcus told her about his childhood on Earth, about his sister who was a teacher, and his parents who grew vegetables in a small farm. They would love you, he said. My mother always said I needed someone smarter than me to keep me from doing stupid things. You do not do stupid things. I am a military officer, Lirelei. We specialize in stupid things. The trick is doing them for smart reasons. Lirelei. Lirelei. Lirelei laughed. The first time she had truly laughed since the engagement was announced. Tell me about Earth music. Marcus activated a small device that filled the air with soft melodies. The music was different from Zephyrian songs. Less psychic harmony. More emotional rhythm. But it was beautiful in its own way. May I? He offered his hand. Lirelei took it, and he showed her how humans danced. It was more physical than Zephyrian dancing, requiring partners to move together through trust and practice, rather than mental connection. But when she relaxed and let him guide her, she found it wonderfully intimate. In human culture, when a man loves a woman, what does he do? She asked as they moved to the music. He tries to make her happy. He supports her dreams. He stands beside her during difficult times. He never tries to change her or control her. He loves her exactly as she is. And the woman? She does the same for him. It sounds like partnership. The best marriages are. Over the following weeks, Marcus courted Lirelei properly. He brought her gifts. Not jewelry or wealth, but books of human poetry and recordings of Earth's greatest symphonies. He asked her opinion on military matters and actually listened to her suggestions. When she mentioned that she had always wanted to learn about other worlds, he arranged for video calls with human civilians on a dozen different planets. Most importantly, he never tried to rush her or pressure her. When she needed time to think, he gave her space. When she wanted to talk, he listened. When she was worried about her people's reaction to their relationship, he helped her plan ways to bring humans and Zephyrians closer together. You are very patient, she observed one evening. Good things are worth waiting for. But what if I ultimately decided I could not marry you? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then I would be very sad, but I would respect your choice. And I would still be honored to have known you. It was this answer that finally convinced Lirelei. A man who could accept rejection with grace was a man who truly loved her rather than simply wanting to possess her. On the anniversary of their first meeting, Lirelei made her decision. She found Marcus in the command center, reviewing reports from the human fleet. "The ships are preparing to leave," he said without looking up. "All of them?" "Most. We will leave a small force to help train your military. But the crisis is over. My people can go home." "And you?" Now he looked at her. "That depends on your answer to a question I have not asked yet." "Then ask it." Marcus stood and walked to where she waited. With careful formality, he knelt on one knee and took her hand. "Lirelei of the Crystal House, daughter of Emperor Vorthak, protector of the Zephyrian people, will you marry me?" Lirelei looked down at this human who had become everything to her. Strong enough to lead armies, gentle enough to comfort frightened children, brave enough to die for strangers, humble enough to ask permission before taking her hand. "Yes," she said. "But I have conditions." Marcus smiled. "Name them." "I want to visit Earth and meet your family. I want our children to learn both human and Zephyrian ways. And I want to help build bridges between our peoples, so no one else has to be afraid of humans the way I was." Agreed to all of it. "Then yes, Marcus Chen, I will marry you." Their second wedding ceremony was very different from the political one that had been planned. This time, Zephyrians and humans worked together to create something new. A celebration that honored both cultures. Lirelei wore a dress that combined Zephyrian crystal work with human silk. Marcus spoke his vows, in both languages. But the most important difference was the joy on their faces as they promised to love each other for the rest of their lives. Later, at the reception, Emperor Vorthak approached his new son-in-law. "You have made my daughter happy," the emperor said. "That is worth more than any political alliance." "She has made me happy too, Your Majesty, more than I thought possible." "What will you do now? Will you stay here or return to human space?" Marcus looked across the room at his new wife, who was teaching human children how to play a Zephyrian game. "We will go wherever we can do the most good. There are many species in the galaxy who have wrong ideas about humans. Perhaps it is time they learned the truth." And so Princess Lirelei and Admiral Marcus Chen became ambassadors of a sort, traveling together through the stars. They visited worlds where humans were feared and showed them the reality that humans were not monsters, but protectors, that they did not conquer out of cruelty, but fought to defend the innocent. Most importantly, they proved that love could exist between any two people, regardless of species or origin. All it required was respect, understanding, and the courage to look past fear to see the person underneath. Years later, when their own children played in gardens on a dozen different worlds, Lirelei would remember her terror at the thought of marrying the ruthless human. She would smile and think about how wrong the galaxy had been about humanity. Humans were not ruthless at all. They were the opposite. So full of love and loyalty that they would die for strangers, fight impossible battles to protect the innocent, and change their entire lives for the chance to make someone else happy. They were, in short, exactly the kind of people the galaxy needed more of.